Ichigo awakens by Telach, chapter 34, Past Pains and Coming Change. Past Pains and Coming Change. Flashback Kenpachi's party. Thousands of warped holes echoed throughout the air as massive hollows cried out in primal instinct. A few seconds later, they were swept by a massive beam. For everyone slain, there were another 10 after. Spinning blades flew towards their marks and tore a Gillian asunder, while a segmented whip blade slashed down several others of the empty husks. An elephant-like beast roared in anger as three figures with a spear, a scimitar, and a multi-bladed scythe cut it to pieces. Man! Ikaku yelled as the body of the slain Adjukacha faded. This is one hell of a party. It does serve as good training. I'm glad you dragged me here. Hisagi responded as he and Renji joined him. Tetsuseman and Yumichika. But do those two ever slow down? They turned to see the Blood Knight captain cutting through entire groups of hollows of all sizes with the sheer force of him swinging his axe. The groups of the hybrid was doing much the same with pure reishi attacks, covering the barren wastelands with experience. The thousands of hollows falling like sheets of paper. That's what makes Captain Zaraki so great, Ikaku said in excitement and admiration. The man who loves battle so much, his corps would keep fighting long after death. Now he found the one person to keep up with him, a perfect hybrid with instant regeneration. Don't sell yourself short, Hisaki, Yumichika told the lieutenant. Try to lift his spirits. That's a pretty impressive Sanpakuto. Hisaki lifted one of his large dual-sided Kusarigama blades. Thanks, but I don't like it, he said, looking over his blade. It looks like it's solely meant to kill. He continued to give his blade a pensive, bloody stare, unaware that everyone was looking at him like he said something incredibly stupid. What did you just say? Ikaku said calmly but furiously. Would you like to repeat that? Hisaki looked up in confusion. It just irks me for some, he tried to explain before Ikaku cut him off. Suhim, what are we? What is your title? He slowly stood up, glaring at the lieutenant. I believe we're called Soul Reapers, Shingami Death Gods. Do you know what this means, Hisaki? The Squad 9 lieutenant suddenly felt very nervous around the bald man. It means we take lives, Hisagi. He roared at his fellow lieutenant. Any weapon with an edge is meant to kill and reap lives. My own Shikai is a stick, a fragile freaking stick. Do I think it's stupid? Do I disapprove of it? No, I master it because it's my weapon. He roared at the tattooed man. I don't care what half-assed sentimental Tosin tried to teach you, but there's nothing that can be attained without bloodshed, he said as he rose up. While you waste your time being all emo and whatever, I'll focus on my task. He turned to face the direction of Zaraki and Ichigo. Make sure I can keep up with my captain. Bankai, he roared, getting consumed by a whirlwind of reishi, revealing three massive blades, a Shaolin spade, and Guandam, connecting by chains to a large axe blade. Rudin Hozukimaru, he yelled before leaping towards the main fight with Ichigo and Kenpachi. Yeah, he's right, Renji said before getting up. You're an idiot, Hisagi. Then he left to join the fight. You have such an ugly attitude, Yumichiki responded, deciding to have a drink with Captain Kyoku. No wonder Rangiku is going for Ichigo. What? Hisaki cried just now, hearing about the matter. Yeah, Ichigo's getting himself a harem, Tetsu-Simon explained. And pal, you never had a shot with her at all. Hisaki turned white and started to shrivel up like a dead plant. In fact, I think you should be disqualified from this game. I'll talk to the captain about that, he said as the last to walk away, leaving Hisagi to suffer his shock alone. With Kenpachi and Ichigo, the hollows were being slaughtered mercilessly as the two cut through them like grass. Kenpachi swung Nosarashi with enough force to create air blades and sheer brute strength to crush an Ichigo's head with one hand. Ichigo seemingly teleported around the battlefield, bisecting everything he cut with ease and giving himself more to his hollow nature. It didn't take long for the smarter hollows to realize the danger and attempted to flee. Unfortunately for them, the bait was too potent for them to think clearly. A large centipede hollow attempted a sneak attack at Ichigo before Ikaku slashed through its skull. He was accompanied by Renji, who summoned a massive skeletal snake. When the hell did you two learn Bankai? Kenpachi growled, punching a hollow into red mist. A little before Rukia's execution, Renji answered. Captain Kushiki said that mastering Bankai and attaining Bankai are two different things. I figured now was as good as the time as any. He made his massive construct spin and grind away at most of the surrounding hollows. He turned to glare at his lieutenant. Forgive me, Captain, he said with a deep bow. I mastered my Bankai long ago. I just wanted to continue to serve under you, sir, he explained before Kenpachi threw him into the ground. You should have told me sooner, he yelled. I was expecting you to challenge me to a rematch for decades. Now you show me you've been a promising opponent. That pisses me off. Ikaku pried himself out of the ground. Now come on, the party's not over yet, he roared as he jumped back into the fray, cleaving a dozen Gillian in half. Ikaku grinned as the dragon emblem on his axe fell up. Yes, sir, Captain Zaraki, he roared, readying his blade, and accidentally cutting into Ichigo's back. Ah, the hybrid exclaimed. Watch where you're swinging that. I'm actually more surprised that I cut you, Ikaku said. Present day, Soul Society, Central Underground Prison, lowest level. And then I beat Yukaku into unconsciousness, so wait till Zoraki got bored, and we called it a day. Ichigo told Unohana, who asked what her fiance's bachelor party was like. I think I blacked out a few times and ate a menos or two. It kind of just blurs together. He finished recounting the story from what Yumichiki said and his own knowledge. Unohana simply smiled. Sounds like it was a lot of fun, she said as they continued to descend into the darkness. Appropriate for him, but still so childish. At least now he says he won't hesitate to kill his opponents because he says he's keeping a promise of only one opponent, you, Ichigo Kurosaki. The doors opening to reveal a massive dark room with sparse candle placements, making it seem to go on forever. Yes, you restore him to his true strength, undoing my greatest crime, she mumbled, though Ichigo heard her. I've been wondering, you two seem to know each other, Ichigo stated. What's the story and what are we doing here? He asked as the veteran captain turned to Ichigo, urging to smile and look becoming more and more cold as she talked. The creation of the original Gotai was millennia ago, she started. They were referred to as the Balancers and kept balance of life and death, thus leading to the original war against the Quincy and Yuobak himself. She slowly began to undo her braid. The first generation was filled with nothing but thugs and killers. That lack of empathy made them known as the strongest and eventually ended the war with our victory. General Sai founded this force and the institution that would train more soldiers, but the other captains were left to the devices. The first Kenpachi was known as the most diabolical criminal that society had ever known and set the roots of the 11th squad that is still adhered to even now. Ichigo's eyes widened as Retsu Onohana became a different person in front of him. One day, while looking for people to kill on the furthest edge of the Rukon lowest district, the Kenpachi came across an animal in human form, feral and beastly. This child knew no fear and attacked the Kenpachi with such power and bloodlust that the first Kenpachi knew she discovered her successor. Having been injured with the only scar on her body, she said, revealing her scar and becoming Yachiro Onohana, the first Kenpachi. You were the original Kenpachi, he asked, suddenly fearful of the woman. She let out a chidden laugh. I mastered all forms of swordplay and killed constantly to quell my thirst for blood, she continued to explain. Zaraki was the last fight I enjoyed as Kenpachi. Using the healing techniques I learned to prolong my fights, I became the captain of the 4th Division as Retsu Unohana. Unfortunately, in an effort to continue enjoying his fights from then on, he subconsciously made himself pathetically weak. I resolved to one day return him to his power and die, making him the true Kenpachi. But then you showed up, she said, walking towards him, making Ichigo feel like death was coming for him, making him freeze in fear. You fought him, continuously, practically killing each other and restoring him bit by bit. That was to be my final fight, Ichigo Kurosaki, and you took it from me. She unsheathed her sword. You wanted training? Then Yurosaki told me to teach you your swordplay. Before Ichigo could react, she slashed through his throat. First lesson, boy. Reaction time. Ichigo coughed out blood as his neck healed. Then she cut through his eyes. Don't worry, I can heal you from the brink of death. Just try to survive. Squad 11 barracks. Apache stood in front of his entire division, Ikaku kneeling next to his captain and covered in bandages. He bore a scowl that would match that of the hybrids currently training in the deepest depths of Soul Society. Everyone waited under the heavy, oppressive glare of the strongest berserker in all of the Gotai. They shivered in fear, waiting for the man to say anything, jumping when he started growling. Your lieutenant recently revealed that he knew Bankai, he said. I fought him long before I became a captain and enjoyed the battle. When we met after I took the title of Kenpachi, I was expecting a rematch. Now he reveals that he was a captain level fighter, a low tier captain, but still. I missed out on a good fight, and that pisses me off. So, is anyone else hiding anything? He roared, making everyone cower as they professed their innocence and loyalty to their captain. Shut up, I hate secrets. In my opinion, they make everything ugly, he said while keeping an eye on Yumichika, who flinched when he said ugly. Something you want to say, Yumichika? The capacitated officer went in front of the captain and knelt in front of him. I'm sorry, sir, he said to the berserker. I knew about Ikaku's abilities, but kept silent since he asked me to. As for my own secret, his eye drifted to his best friend, his captain, and his squad before he stilled his nerves. I don't have a melee type Zanpakuto. There was a loud collective gasp as Yumichika let out his biggest secret. He kept his eyes on the ground, waiting for Saraki's judgment. Okay, what else? He asked, completely indifferent. Everyone looked at Kenpachi in shock of his complete disregard of the squad's unspoken rule. What can you really do? My Sanpokdo is really a Kido type, Yumichiko elaborated. Tear and frenzy Ruryo Kujako, he called out, letting his blade become a group of glowing peacock feathers vines. Anything cut in these vines will have their reishi stolen. To his back, he could hear the murmurs among his squad. A look of shock on Ikaku's face hurt the most. I never wanted anyone to see this power because Squad 11 is full of melee fighters. I never wanted you to think any less of. He tried to say before Saraki unleashed his shikai and slammed the massive handle against the ground, making everyone shake and the ground fracture. Shut up! He roared again. I can barely hear Yumichika over your damn chatter. I don't give a damn whether his abilities are melee or keto based. He should be praised as the most loyal of all you. He turned to Yumichika again. Am I right on guessing that you would have rather died than reveal your real strength? He asked, making his prospective third seed nod. And you become one of the strongest fighters despite the handicap you put on yourself. I would have never figured it out. So why didn't you step up? But because, Yumichika stuttered, I didn't want to appear ugly in your eyes, Captain. Since when the hell did I care about beauty? He asked as Yukichima realized the lapse in logic. Aren't you marrying Captain Unahana, the one everyone agrees is the most beautiful woman in the Gaute? Yukaku asked. Lucas got nothing to do with that, Kimpanchi told him. It's because that woman's given me this scar. He pointed to his scarred face, making everyone exclaim in shock. The first real enjoyable fight in my life. Always wanted a rematch with the first Kenpachi, he said, shocking the squad further. But Ichigo's the real person I'll fight from now on, so I figured, what the hell? Everyone stared at their captain in shock of the revelation. The entire squad started panicking as they remembered their treatment of the 4th Division. Oh, right. Yumichika, here's what'll happen. I don't want to see you here until you become proficient in keto spells. After that, if anyone has the balls left to challenge you, fight to become 3rd seed again. He turned and left. And no holding back, you punk. He threw him over his shoulder as he walked away, the entirety of his squad having a collective breakout. Las noches, Aizen's study. He was a patient man, waited centuries, played the nice guy, gained loyalties, and manipulated everyone while he built up his army. It was sure to pay off when he finally recovered Urahara's Hyokuku to strengthen his own and create his Arrancar while improving himself to become the ultimate being. He enacted his plan, retrieving the orb from Rukio's body, defeated Ichigo, and escaped, all as planned. However, it didn't take him long to learn the object he took was a decoy, a fake one with the same energy signature of a real Hokyoku, completely incapable with a genuine article, and only able to create a scarce few incomplete Arankar. His calm demeanor gave way to rage as he lashed out at having been outsmarted. His loyal aides were caught up in his wrath and both needed immediate surgery. Now he's calm and furious, watching and studying every single recording he has on Ichigo Kurosaki. Captain Aizen called out again as he entered the room. The spotter are waiting for you, sir. He was impressed that they managed to pull one over on Aizen. Now Aizen was studying his greatest experiment, the most dangerous wildcard, the subject of the meeting today, who to send to gather data on the hybrid. Aizen rose from his chair and followed Gin to the meeting of his top 10 Aran car. They reached the long table with the spot flanking both sides, waiting for the master and his orders. "Hello, everyone," he said, calm as ever, but with no trace of mirth. "I've called this meeting because I have a mission to give to two of you." Each one gave a varied look of interest. "I want intelligence on Ichigo Kurosaki. Two of you are to go into the world of the living and gather information on him. For this, I've decided to send Ulquiorra," he pointed to the pale white Arankar with half a helmet, who has experience spying on Ichigo. "I apologize for the lack of information on his growth, Lord Aizen," the white bat said with a bowed head. "I shall not fail this time." Aizen nodded his approval before pointing at the largest of the group. "And Yami Iranko, whom I want to test Ichigo." The giant tan Arankar grinned in excitement. He's no doubt undergoing training to become a viable weapon against me, and I want an idea on his growth. If you can capture him, do so. If not, kill him. He's too dangerous to live alive." He rose from his throne to return to his study. Be sure to prepare yourself properly," he warned. "We don't have the time to replace you if you die." He returned to the study and watched the image of Ichigo destroying Ginjo and Tsukishima again, paying close attention to the look of shock on the hybrid's face. "Still just a boy," he murmured as he planned to strengthen his Hokyoku. Silburn drew a box to the throne room. The Quincy King looked over his assembled Threndratus, gathered by his second in command for the purpose of gathering information on his two lost children. The heat, the explode, and the thunderbolt. Interesting choice in his opinion. He remembered Basbeam, the red-haired Mohawk Quincy, who only got as strong as he did from the Harkswald's ability to aid other Quincy's growth. He would turn Uryu back to his divine light, being one that formerly hated him and now serves winningly. By Beta and the slender explode that had a tendency to kill his soldats to vent her petty anger, and Candace, the vain thunderbolt that focused more on her looks than her power. They would bring him Ichigo, provided they knew the limits and rules of their mission. "You have been gathered here before me for a special mission," he said in his dark, rumbling voice. "One of the war powers, Ichigo Kurosaki, and the Gemsh Quincy that survived my holy selection, Uryu Ishida, seem to be siding with our enemies." A look of anger passed through his soldiers. "However, I would not see my sons slain for their misguidance. They know not their destinies. Instead, you are to bring them back to us, the real family. Do not force them, as they will resist, and only kill them as a last resort," he said before letting his power flare. "The two of them are more valuable than half of the Wandenreich. Do not fail me," he said, waving his hand to dismiss them. "Dasby, you will go to Uryu. Bambita and Candice, Ichigo will be yours to sway," he commanded as they left. "Do you truly believe they can be swayed, Your Majesty?" the stentorian Grandmaster inquired, remembering Uryu denouncing his kind during his battle with Mayuri. Many were furious with him abandoning his heritage. Others were curious about his blasphemous equipment given to him by Urahara. He was an object of hate amongst many and a sign of rebellion against their father. "There are my children as well as any of you," Yuobach dismissed casually. "My blood runs through them. They will return to the light, one way or another." Shiba household. Rukia and Rangiko followed Orihime and Tatsuki as they went to see Mama Masaki. They say Orihime and Tatsuki put them both on edge, but as if they were going to their execution, which Rukia had experienced with. Rangiku was interested to meet the woman that made her former captain shape up, and Rukia heard nothing but praises about her from the Kurosaki family. Now they were terrified of incurring the matriarch's anger. Rukia had to meet her as they would soon be mother and daughter by law, and Rangiku wasn't about to back out when she felt this committed. They reached the Shiba grounds to find Karin and Yuzu playing against the twin attendants, simultaneously training their Quincy powers to gain an edge against the older attendants, with the adults watching. "Masaki Oka-chan," Orihime called out, getting the Quincy's attention. "We're back, and we brought some friends." Everyone stopped the game to meet the girls. But he met Tatsuki, Rukia, Ishin cheered, running with a notable limp. My third, fourth, and fifth daughters, he said, happily hugging the three, slowly taking note of his former lieutenant. Hey, Rukia, here to visit your former captain? She asked as the blonde Soul Reaper chuckled nervously. Yep, and be your sixth daughter, Tatsuki said with a mischievous grin that would not be out of place on Yoruichi. Ishin paled and grasped the lieutenant by her shoulders. Just run, don't look back, and don't, he tried to warn before feeling his wife's hand on his shoulders. Hold on, Ishin, Masaki said slowly, already gaining a menacing aura. I'd like to meet this supposed sixth daughter. She moved her husband out of the way and ran a critical eye over the lieutenant, then suddenly reached out and began to grope the bustiest woman of Soul Society. After a few seconds of that, Masaki gave her judgment. Those boobs are too big, she pouted. My Ichigo would never give in to someone who acted so shamefully. She actually reminded me of you a little, Ishin said, making his wife glare at him. Remember how we first met? Masaki actually took a second to reminisce. Oh yeah, she giggled at the memory. You were so flustered back then. Yeah, yeah. She playfully and she says she's playful and lazy, but when it counts, she's definitely someone you can rely on. Ishin explained as he came in front of his former lieutenant. But this begs the question: why are you interested in Ichigo? Akiko actually blushed as she fished out Gin's letter. He was doing what Gin wanted, and I wanted to see what kind of person he was. She explained it timidly, so I made it tempting, like I was vulnerable and willing. She felt Masaki's demonic glare burn into her skin as she continued. But he simply confronted me, didn't try to take advantage of the situation at all, and took care of me. Masaki listened, lightened up on the glare. I wanted to see more of who he really is. They waited until Masaki let out a sigh. Fine, but don't think I'm letting you do whatever you want. She then turned her attention to the diminutive Soul Reaper and Noble. So you're Rukia Kuchiki? She said, making Rukia feel like she's shrinking under Masaki's glare. Just one thing before we get started. Rukia lowered her head, shaking in fear at whatever it was her future mother-in-law had to do. Then she felt something being placed on her head. You make such a cute bunny, Masaki squealed along with Orihime and Rankiku. I now have no trouble believing they're related, Rukia thought in deadpan as she once again had bunny ears on her head, though the difference in action is shocking. But in all seriousness, Kuchiki-san, Masaki said while returning to a focused state of mind and petting Rukia's head, I know what's it like to be forced to marry against your will. I myself was forced to play that part in politics with the Ishida family before I met Ishin, so I can sympathize with you. Well, I don't think I can protest too much, Rukia said, enjoying Masaki's strokes. He saved my life, made me feel better than I was when I was sad. He saw me for me instead of a member of the Kuchiki clan. All in all, I don't like him. Masaki smiled, happy that her boy became a splendid man after all. Ishin did all right without her. Okay, fine, she said, relenting to her kinder nature. You can both pursue Ichigo, but no more naughty business until he's married. Got it? She growled, making the girls see a hanya apparition before her. They all nodded frightfully. Good. Now you have to prove yourself, she said, releasing a sinister laugh. With Ichigo, Unohana ended the training, leaving Ichigo as a carved, bloodied mess on the floors of the prison. His generation was long since spent as she kept putting him on the brink of death. Time and time again, she regarded him with disgust he never knew she was capable of before. Now he sat in meditation, trying to focus on controlling his Rayatsu, plagued by her words. How pathetic, she said to him, to think you've undone my greatest sin with such a cowardly resolve. You had your chance to block, fight back, even kill me, but you hesitated every time. There's only ever one Kenpachi, one unrevolved warrior among the Shinigami. Every generation, the nine between me and Zaraki were false Kenpachis, and he should have killed me to take the title. And the worst of it is that a child like yours freed him from his self-imposed binds. She healed him and dragged his tired body to return to the surface. You have the same problem he gave himself. You're scared of your own power, afraid to kill again. Aizen and especially Yoba will not have the same problem. We only beat the Wanderite because of our ruthlessness. You are a soldier of Soul Society now, Ichigo. And no matter what anyone says, soldiers skill people. How you use that power is up to you. Her words replayed in his mind as he meditated, shattered his focus as he watched Ginjo and Tsukishima get destroyed by his power, and then going for his friends. Ah! He screamed, causing the violent explosion of rays around him. He gasped for breath as the images faded from his mind. To his side was Genryusi, making tea in pure serenity. Something troubling you, my disciple? He asked as he finished brewing and pouring out 2 cups. Something Retsu said. Yes, sir. Ichigo breathed out, sitting across from the elderly captain and taking one of the cups to soothe his nerves. She told me about the history of the Kotai and called me pathetic for my hesitance in fighting again. They took a drink as Yamamoto mused over Ichigo's troubles. Those were indeed dark times, Ichigo. He spoke in a tired voice. I myself am ashamed of the things I've done. The death of Yuaba was necessary, but not all to Quincy. It was my own anger and arrogance that let the war get as terrible as it did. It was only your proof of Yuaba return did I compromise my morals and let humans join the fight that we failed to stop. As for your current hesitation, I do not fault you, and Retsu is clearly mad at you for making her chosen successor spit in the face of the unspoken law of the Kenpachi. He set down the cup and looked at Ichigo directly in the eye, his stare reflecting over thousands of years of wisdom and experience. Ichigo, there is no doubt that you will be expected to end the lives of more people. Treasonous Shinigami, these Urahara speaks of, the Quincy, even more regular humans, if they present a threat that will not be swayed to peace or restraint, they will have to be put down, not because the law dictates it, nor because their ideals or opinions clash with ours, but because they will not stop threatening that which we care for. I treasure the peace we now have, and saw any criminals as a threat to that peace. You have to be willing to protect what you treasure, no matter the lengths or cost. Ichigo lowered his head and thought of what his aged teacher told him. Genryusai took the Eastern tea set and put it in front of the hybrid. Now, make the tea, he ordered as Ichigo took the items and repeated the ceremony his master taught him. Am I to return to the living world after today? He asked as he mixed the water and the sencha powder. He finished and poured the mixture for his teacher. Yes, Ichigo. The older dragon took a sip and smiled as he drank. As captain and lieutenant, you and your father must be there to oversee matters and keep the peace in the world of the living. Also, to get more practice in making tea. This is nowhere near passable, he said bluntly, making the boy twitch in anger. Mickey T was the last thing anyone ever thought to teach me, Gramps. Ichigo yelled indignantly. Your first lesson for me was how to throw a punch, which still took 3 days, if I recall. Dismissed, Lieutenant. The ancient general commanded, making Ichigo get up and leave. Yes, terrible T, but it did show me you're returning to a calm balance. Keep growing, my boy. Genryusi reflected before disposing of the team. Illustrated Guide to Soul Reapers. Karen in Yuzu's first class. The two sisters wore the red and white uniform of Shino Academy and stood in front of the class as the teacher introduced him. These are Yuzu and Karen Kurosaki, daughters of Captain Ishin Kurosaki, said a gray-haired man, introducing the twins to the class. Because of their situation, they will be in class on a limited basis, and they are not to be treated differently. If I found out about any bullying or special treatment, the preparations will be punished. He turned to the girls. Go take a seat. Karen found an empty spot for her and while Yuzu asked the new teacher a question. Sensei, we heard our brother will be training under the captain commander personally, she said, immediately getting the class talking, some impressed and some angry at the arrogance of the half-breed. Will he be alright? Girls, I know Lieutenant Kurosaki impressed the commander, but he is too busy to waste his time taking on any student, he said as the black blur broke through the wall next to him and slammed into the back of the room, revealing Ichigo with a fist indented in his stomach. Barely a tenth of a second later, Yamamoto appeared in front of him. And that's how you throw a punch, boy, he said sternly. Ichigo fell to the ground as rubble collapsed on top of him. I want 10,000 of those for each arm within an hour. If you ran out of time, you start over. He turned around to walk out of the hole he made when he demonstrated what he wanted. Now get to it. The clock's ticking. Uryu and Nemu's date aftermath. Uryu slowly woke up, remembering his forced date holding a cloth rag over his mouth and making him pass out. When he did, he was met with bright lights, a warm, soft bed, and an odd draft, restraints around his wrist, and ankles, and a naked Nemu lay next to him. What's happening? He yelled as he tried not to stare at his bear companion. Oh, good, you're awake. He heard Mayuri's voice coming from the speakers around the bright room. This is just an experiment we need you for. Don't worry, you might enjoy it, unless you're gay and prefer to bottom. What the hell are you talking about? Uryu yelled indignantly when Urahara apparently showed up. Mayuri, did you finish the? What the hell are you doing? He yelled out. You should know better than this. Nemo, get over here. Uryu breathed a sigh of relief, believing Urahara could help. The light suddenly dimmed to mimic candlelight as smooth jazz started playing, and Nemo came out in tantalizing white linen lingerie. Uryu could only stare and blush at the artificial person. Much better. Continue, he said carefully. Someone help me! Uryu cried out. Rukia's initiation. Ichigo and Chad found Uryu in a rather compromising position and broke him out. Ichigo even punched Urahara in the face a couple times and ripped off Mayuri's arm. Now, safe from the insane scientist, they talked about their days. I think we made some progress on activating a second full ring for me, Chad told them. And Jackie seemed to be making progress as well. Ruruka's been running into things all day, though. You'd think at some point she'd stop listening to Jackie. I had a rather pleasant date at first, you said, reminiscing. Visited some shops, got ideas to improve my own designs in needlework, a rather enjoyable chat, and a lovely picnic lunch. Then his mood soured until I spat out a pill and then got drugged, of course. And I still wonder if you really wanted us to save you like you said, Ichigo said, making Uryu shoot a glare at his cousin. And what happened to you, oh mighty lieutenant? He asked, making Ichigo look into the distance and start shaking. Worse than you, Uryu, he said cryptically. They reached the door of the Shiba household with plans to enjoy their last day of the week. I just want to hit the hay as soon as possible. He opened the front door to find Rukia in not but an apron, pantyhose, and bunny ears. Welcome home, darling. Pion, she said, looking at Ichigo. Would you like a bath? Stopping when she noticed Chad and Uryu with him, Ichigo reached out and penned his fiancée before closing the door, just in time to hear his mother start lecturing her on proper teasing foreplay. I want to go home, Ichigo groaned. End of chapter 34.